All right, guys, this is probably going to be a very long video, and it's not going to be very interesting for people who are looking for like a magic pill to, to just do some exercise and automatically lose weight or gain muscle or something. This is probably the most important video I've ever done for the people who actually watch the channel, who are actually interested in just changing their lives, not necessarily in terms of fitness, but in terms of everything. And the thing is, I've failed at every single thing I've ever attempted in my entire life. Ultimately, I've failed. I've never really been a success, for any great period of time. Which is funny because I've always done extremely well at everything I've always done. I've never gone into any endeavor, whether it was like a professional endeavor, a diet, a workout, a business I was starting, a job I was starting. I've never not been awesome from the very beginning. But then all of a sudden, there came a time where I just crashed and burned, okay? And I'm not the sort of person to blame circumstances or say it's everybody else's fault, because if I fail at something after succeeding at everything, maybe it's, some outside influence. But if I fail at everything I do, obviously the only common denominator is me, I'm the only thing that's, in every situation, so I'm obviously what's causing the failure. So, that's something I've actually been looking for years. A lot of people talk about having like a, about having like self-limiting beliefs. You try to get rich, but you were brought up believing that money is evil. So, how can you have money if you don't want to be an evil person? So you feel evil as soon as you start getting some money together. And the only way to feel, like a good person again is to go ahead and get rid of the money. So that's why some people will make money and then they'll like fail, and then they'll make money and fail. That's not me. Okay, I love money. I'm not afraid. All these things that people talk about, self-limiting beliefs, none of them apply to me. I think money is awesome. I think people with money are awesome. I respect everyone who has money, who got it through a legal, moral way. I don't think that everybody who has money stole from the government or cheated on their taxes or stole from the little man. I don't believe any of that crap, okay? It's just, what I'm saying is basically all the self-help stuff, about self-limiting beliefs, I really don't believe in, okay? And, they all talk about like a wealth barometer, like, okay, so you think of yourself as somebody who's supposed to earn minimum wage. If you earn any more money than minimum wage, you'll somehow defeat yourself, so you go back down to minimum wage. If you lose your job, you'll find a way immediately to get back up to minimum wage. You won't live from welfare because you think you're a minimum wage, And of course, the same thing goes for $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, whatever. I don't have that issue either. Like I said, I don't have any issue where I think that like an in-shape person, so when I get a six-pack, I have to get rid of my six-pack. I don't have like a wealth barometer. I don't have a fitness barometer. There's nothing. So why is it that I keep, destroying everything that I've built up? It's like, Tony Robbins, was talking about in one of his audios. He says that he created this huge business. He was making a lot of money. He thought everything was great. And then all of a sudden, he started self-sabotaging. Like, he would just not show up for meetings. He would fire people that were, working, doing a good job for him. He wouldn't show up at work. He'd wake up in the morning. The only thing he'd care about is how much he's going to eat. So obviously, his business went to hell. And, his fitness went to hell because there's just, the only thing he did all day is eat, And, of course, he had to go ahead and figure out what was holding him back, what was causing this, behavior that he did so well, and then all of a sudden he just destroyed everything. So I haven't been able to figure that out for years, okay? And first of all, let's just discuss the problem, okay? I would like you to go ahead, you could stop the video and do it now, or you could do it afterwards. Or maybe you've noticed already that I've started a lot of playlists on this YouTube channel. Like, I'm gonna build so much muscle in so much time, so much strength in so much time. I'm going to, do whatever. I'm going to, get my waist down to a certain size at a certain time. And I always do well in the beginning. And right before I start to get close to my goal, I'd stop. You know, it's like the Tony Robbins thing. Okay, so I'd stop uploading videos. I stop, you know, answering comments, you know, in the YouTube section. I stop, you know, posting on Instagram. And it's like, why is that? Because I'm doing it really well, and then all of a sudden, right before I get to my goal, I like start binge eating. I don't go to the gym. You know, something happens. I just go to hell. You know, and like I said, it's people would say, well, you know, you need to eat carbohydrates and, you know, you can't stay on this diet, you're too strict. But the fact of the matter is, I spend more time on diets than off diets. You know, if I feel like crap when I'm, you know, eating rubbish, you know, and I can't wait to get back. I just feel every part of my body feels bad, you know. And I would probably say more like I can't stay off of a diet. You know, as for carbohydrates, I've done this on other diets. You know, other diets where I've eaten, you know, normal foods, you know, where I've eaten carbohydrates and stuff. I've done it where I've gotten results and all of a sudden I just stopped. Okay, so what I'm basically saying is, and it has nothing to do with just working out. It has to do with, like, you know, businesses. I've had a couple businesses that I've run, and I've done really well in the beginning. I mean, I was known for, you know, the business, or two businesses that I ran that I was doing really, really, really well. And I just ran them into the ground. And I ran them into the ground by just not doing stuff, by just not working, by just hiding, not answering my phone, not doing things. Like, what the fuck kind of a moron puts in the work in the beginning, and then right when you're close to your goal, right when you're doing well, all of a sudden you just don't show up for work. You just destroy everything. You know, so like I said, this is not something that has to do with a diet or a workout plan. This has to do with just everything, okay? Every time I got close to accomplishing something in my life, I would go ahead and destroy it. And like I said, I couldn't figure out where the limiting belief was or whatever it was that I was destroying myself. Why am I doing this self-destructive behavior? And I'll tell you, like, you know, I came out of a bulk recently for the people that watch the channel, and I was 10.2% body fat, like really, you know, I mean, 10.2% body fat. I was looking pretty good. I was feeling pretty good. I was doing pretty well. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, you know, lean up, get down to like 8%, maybe 6% body fat. And I did really, really well. Okay, like my goal at one point was to get down to 195. Now it's more like, you know, 190. But the bottom line is I got down to like 200 pounds right before my goal. Right before my goal. And then all of a sudden I just fall off the wagon and I just fucking, you know, spend a weekend binge eating for no reason. Now, you might say, oh, well, you can't eat, go without carbohydrates. And the whole time I was bulking, I ate no carbohydrates. The whole time I was bulking, I really didn't have any cheat days. Okay? The whole time that I was cutting straight from the bulk, no break, cutting, I had no problems. And then all of a sudden, right before I get 5 pounds from my goal, and all of a sudden I just do everything to shit. So I go ahead and get right back on the horse. I'm like, fine, get right back on the horse. Start losing weight again, start dieting again, start working out again, get down to 190, and boom, I just binge ate again. Why? Why the hell? Why when I get within 5 pounds of my goal, okay, I put on a lot of muscle, I got really big, I got really strong, and I got really lean. I was already pretty lean, now I got even leaner. I'm almost at my goal for leanness, and all of a sudden I just go ahead and just completely destroy everything. Why? What the hell? What the hell possibly? You know, every time I build up momentum with this channel, every time I build up some momentum where, you know, I'm getting more subscribers and people are commenting, I'm commenting back, and, you know, and I'm doing something that I think is actually building momentum, all of a sudden, for some reason, I just stop. I stop uploading, I stop answering comments, I stop everything. Why? Makes no sense. Why do you do this? So my girlfriend, who is awesome, surprised me this weekend. And she brought me, we drove up Friday, we drove from Florida all the way up to, New York City. Saturday, we walked around a little bit and then we watched the Kyokushin, okay, the US Open in Kyokushin karate, knockdown karate. And Sunday we drove back, which took forever because the traffic was terrible and the weather was terrible. But the bottom line is, my girlfriend basically, you know, spent we drove to New York and back, like a 13-hour drive up and like an 18-hour drive back in 3 days just to watch 3 hours of fighting. And it's like, you know, so she's just awesome. Like, you know, obviously, you know, really positive thing. And, you know, what we like to do when we drive is we like to read, like, success books, okay? So, when we drove up, we read a short little book, and then we also read, the first part of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And Secrets of the Millionaire Mind talks about like, okay, why is it that some people can go to a course on how to make money? Some people implement it and get rich, and some people won't, and say it's a fraud. But it's obviously not a fraud because somebody sitting right next to you, to your right and to your left, made tons of money. Well, obviously there's a way you think about money, okay? So it has a lot to do about limiting beliefs and stuff like that. And of course, I was struggling with my, binge eating that only happens when I get right close to my goal. So, because what happened is I just ate my ass off on Saturday night after the fight. I went out, had an omelet, which is good. It's low carb, whatever, fine. And then, of course, I ate, some insane amount of food, which is also fine, some insane amount of carbohydrates, which isn't that bad. Fine, have a cheat, meal or whatever. But then the cheat meal became like an all-night cheat meal. And then it became like Sunday driving back. I was just eating rubbish constantly and ingesting insane amounts of food. It's like, what the fuck are you even thinking that you're doing? One of those where you gain like 20 pounds in 2 days. So it was like, what the hell am I doing? So we're driving back and we're reading the second part of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, where they talk about different strategies and things. And we just kind of the thing is, I grew up actually near New York City. I grew up in, it was a half an hour away from the hotel we stayed in New Jersey. So when we drove home, we ate breakfast in my hometown. We drove around through my hometown. We saw a few things. The first time I've been there in damn near 25 years. We saw the house where I grew up mostly with my grandparents, and stuff. And I think it was a whole bunch of things that came together. It was the karate tournament, seeing where my grandparents, used to live, where I basically grew up, just seeing my hometown and having a lot of memories, and just reading this book about how you're programmed by your family, that I finally kind of, started remembering some things. And what I remembered was, and this is the part that's going to be interesting, because this is how I figured out why I'm such a fuck up, basically. Is what I realized is that through my whole childhood, and my girlfriend is great. Her family was always like, hey, do whatever you want. You choose. Do whatever you want. Be successful. You can do anything you want. We support you. We're here for you. And it's really hard because the more I'm with her, the more I realize that nobody has ever loved me in my entire life. I'm sure my girlfriend now does. I may have had a girlfriend here or there who did, but, my family never loved me. Nobody ever loved me, ever, whatsoever. So it's just something that, I just didn't have. I didn't know. It's like somebody, living in the sewers underground. It's like they don't understand there's a sky. They don't understand there's a sun. They've never seen the sun, but, so that's what it was. And it's not like, wow, 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 woe is me. It's just understand this. I never was loved. And I was never really got any approval. What I really got was acceptance. It was never even approval you did a good job today, or you're less fucked up today. It was always acceptance, okay, I'm not going to fucking bother you. I'm not going to leave you alone now. I fucking whatever. Good boy, just fucking stay in a corner and stay the fuck away from me. That was basically all that I had. That was the highest feeling that I ever got was, I said, acceptance. Not love, not approval, just acceptance. And I mostly grew up with my grandparents, okay? And it's really kind of weird because one of the things I kind of started talking about was how my grandfather, he was a very talented artist by his nature. He could just draw. He went to World War II, came back, and the government was paying people to go to school. So he basically, he learned something that was called commercial illustration. He basically became a graphic designer before they had computers. I always think about the guy in Mad Men. I think he was gay. I only saw the first season of Mad Men, but, there's this Italian-American guy who was the guys would write the ad copy, and then he would draw the pictures for the advertisements and stuff. That's basically what my grandfather learned to do, and that's a pretty cool job, it was a pretty cool job for him to wake up in the morning, put a suit on, drive into the office, your secretary's got your coffee ready for you. He works with models and, with, executives and, has a couple of martinis at lunch, It's that was a pretty cool, life. And my grandmother hated it. Okay, my grandmother fucking hated it, and you know, I didn't find out about this until years later. But the bottom line is, she didn't want him wearing a suit to work. She didn't want him having a nice job in an office. She didn't want him having a secretary. She didn't want him working with models all day. So basically, she just cunted around until he fucking quit the, you know, whatever job he had or whatever. Because I remember when he was telling me when I was a kid, I'm like, well, why don't you do this for a living? He would show me things he did when he was in school, you know, learning this job. I'm like, why the hell don't you do? You're awesome at this. Like, literally, why don't you do this for a living? You know, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, you got the way it is there. You know, if you work in the office and you got to deal with the politics, and you know, and if they want to, you know, run around with your wife, you got to let them. It's like, what, run around with, like, so if you work in an office, every executive in middle management in the world, if their boss wants to fuck their wife, they have to let them fuck their wife or they're going to lose their job. What the fuck? None of this shit makes any sense. Years later, I didn't even know what the fuck any of this shit was supposed to mean. But years later, my mother told me, she's like, yeah, you know, he had a couple jobs, but but her mother, my grandmother, kept screwing with him because she didn't want him to have it well. You know, she wanted him like under the thumb. You know, which is weird because in the 40s and the 50s, he could have been like, bitch, I'll divorce your ass and you will be used goods and fucking you'll be on the street underneath the bridge. But he was a pussy like me. Okay, so he's like, okay, honey, I'm, you know, just to preserve peace. He went from this to working in an asbestos factory until his doctor told him, like, don't even go to work to quit. You're going to die. You don't even go to work to quit. Call them on the telephone from 100 miles away. Tell them you quit. You get yourself another job. You know, he worked here, there. Then at one point he ended up working in Pathmark, which is a chain of supermarkets, or at least it used to be up in the north, where he would work as a, you know, in a warehouse. And I remember the big thing, when he turned 50 years old, he's like, I'm working in the paper warehouse now. So instead of carrying around pallets of canned food, he'd carry around like pallets of like paper towels and napkins because that's where they send the old guys to because it's lighter. You know, that was like the highlight of his life. Whereas he used to be like cast member from the Mad Men. He could have been like, you know, having a really nice car, a really nice job, a really, you know, something he loves and is good at, something that people appreciate, you know, it'd be, you know, fulfillment, everything, you know, but he gave it up just to maintain peace because his wife was, you know, got him under her thumb. I want to keep you here. You know, you're not going to run off with somebody if you're working in an asbestos factory. So anyway, the bottom line is, you know, so that's like, that was kind of fucked up, you know. And so it's like basically like, so when I was a kid, every time, for some reason, every time when I was a kid, I was basically like, you know, I never got love, I never got approval, but the acceptance was taken away when I did anything at all, you know, whenever I accomplished anything. Like when I was a kid, I used to like to read, and I'm not talking about reading like Playboy magazine, I'm talking about like reading non-fiction books, you know. I'd read fiction once in a while for fun, but it was just studying non-fiction books. You know, I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I knew I wanted to become an engineer. That was like my dream, you know, what I wanted to do when I was a kid. So it's like, I'd be reading books, and my grandparents would be sitting down watching, you know, the television. They'd be like, oh, yeah, you know, why do you turn off the lights and relax a little bit, just watch some TV and put the book down? What the fuck kind of a piece of shit, like, tries to tell a kid not to read? What the fuck kind of a piece of shit does that? You know, like, discourages reading, encourages watching thoughtless, mindless television. Okay, it's not like we're watching like a fucking space shuttle landing or the beginning of fucking World War III or some shit like this, or a political fucking convention. I mean, it's like at 8 o'clock Monday night we watch this, at 9 o'clock Tuesday night we watch this, at 10 o'clock every night we go to bed. You know, it's just like mindless horse shit, you know? And it was just like, you know, every time, you know, that I wanted to fucking do anything, like any time that I had any interest, it was always like discouraged. Like, for instance, I always wanted to, like, you know, do my little science experiments and, you know, I wouldn't be a marine engineer. I mean, I know, a naval architect, whatever, design boats. So I'd be like designing my little boats. It's like, why don't you go ahead and, you know, put that down and, you know, just go ahead and just watch some TV or take a nap or something. You know, you'll do that when you go to college. Yeah, don't even do that shit now. Like, why would you discourage someone from trying to, like, you know, like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So many people have no idea what they want to do with their lives. I would specifically, I mean, it's not like I was sitting around smoking crack or drinking beer or fucking, you know, whatever. I was like basically like the best kid in the world, and I got treated like I was a piece of shit. Like, you know, it was terrible. I was always wanted to eat well. That's something I've always wanted to do. But I was always discouraged, and always, like I said, removed my acceptance. Like, people were just fucking with me if I would just try to eat like my grandparents they had no problem if I was sitting around watching TV, eating potato chip after potato chip, ice cream after ice cream, watching fucking TV with them. But if I were to say, hey, I want to eat chicken and rice, or I want to eat this, or I want to go be a vegetarian, I want to do like, I'm really into martial arts when I was a kid. I want to go ahead and, eat like a person who's not, it's just a fucking rubbish bin. Then, of course, they'd have problems with that. I remember one time when I was a kid, it was like, I studied Hapkido. That's where I got my black belt. And it's, it's a lot like, you might say some of the kicks from Taekwondo, but then they have like, jujitsu, like Japanese jujitsu, joint locks, throws and stuff. So it was a lot of kicks. And we used to do full contact fighting. And I remember I was a kid, I was always like, went into the adult classes young, I was like the youngest kid in the adult classes and sparring full contact with the adults and stuff. And I remember the first time I knocked somebody out with a head kick. And even the guys are like, oh, come on now, those kicks are good and it's good for exercise and stuff, but you're not going to knock somebody out. You can't use that in a real fight. You can't use that in sparring. Boom, kicked a guy in the head, knocks him on his fucking ass. And it was like, holy shit. It's like, this shit works. Like, all these people saying it doesn't work. Holy shit, this really did work. And I came home, I told my grandparents about that. Like, oh, yeah, great. You want to have some ice cream to celebrate? It's like, seriously, you people know I want to fucking eat healthy. I want to fucking, I don't want to fucking do this. Like, their fucking thing was they want me to be a piece of shit. They want me to be average. They want me to be, don't do anything out of the norm. Just fucking be a piece of shit for the rest of your fucking life. So they took the opportunity like, oh, wow. It wasn't like, hey, let's have a big bowl of rice to celebrate. Let's bring you to a Chinese restaurant to celebrate. Let me leave you the fuck alone for 3.5 seconds to celebrate. It's like, no, you eat what I told you to. I want you to be a normal, average person. You've achieved a little bit of success. Now let me destroy that success. You got here by fucking working out and eating well. Now I want to take that away from you by making you eat fucking ice cream and be a piece of shit. So do you notice this? That like there was like, resistance the whole time that I was working out and exercising and eating right. Then all of a sudden I get I get a tiny little spike of success. And the first thing is, oh, let's go ahead and eat ice cream to celebrate and get you back on our agenda and make you a piece of shit. And you could get a job like a fucking, in the asbestos factory, like your fucking grandfather, and be a piece of shit for the rest of your life and hate your life. And let me control you 100%, 24 hours a day. And don't read and don't do this and don't do that. And it's like basically, like that really, like I said, I saw the karate tournament Saturday night, and then Sunday we were talking about this. I saw my hometown, I saw where my grandparents lived. That's where I made the connection. This was the first thing. It's like, what the fuck kind of a piece of shit when you first accomplish a tiny little bit tells you to do exactly the opposite of what got you there in the first place. I mean, it would be like, oh, hey, you want to be a vegetarian. Your parents hate you because they want, you to control you 100% of the time. And you're like, hey, I went to some hippie fucking, poetry meeting thing and I won first place. Oh, great. Well, let's go to Roadkill Cafe and you could eat some fucking dead animal and some fried fucking, goddamn chicken fetuses. And then I'll go and bring you to fucking Nordstrom and I'll buy you a fucking, leather fucking handbag. It's like, seriously? Like this, like, okay, so basically, try to use this as an opportunity to fucking just totally, put the person on your agenda. Like, I don't get it. So, that's basically, the way that, like, I joined the Army because I couldn't pay for my second year of college. I went through 1 year of college, couldn't pay for the second year of college, joined the Army. And I was like, okay, well, this is the thing. I'm going to be an engineer for the rest of my life. So I want to do some crazy shit. I want to fucking like, okay, great. Well, yeah, I'm an engineer now, but when I was in the Army, I jumped out of airplanes and I played with explosives and I did this and that and fucking it was awesome and hand-to-hand combat. I wanted to fucking, really do it all. I didn't want to waste my time. What did my fucking grandparents want me to do? They wanted me to drive a truck. Like, you could be a truck driver. What the fuck? I hate fucking driving fucking big goddamn. I hate driving a van, much less a fucking truck. What? I'm like, why? Like, I'm a fucking black belt. I fucking, I'm extremely intelligent. The Army IQ test went up to 130. I got 127 points on it. And the entire time I was in the Army for 7 years eventually. I met 2 people that did better than I did. And I have all this potential. You want me to drive a fucking truck? Like, seriously? You want me to drive a fucking truck? And they knew! My whole life, I was saying I always wanted to do something cool in the Army. I wasn't going to go to the Army because I was going to go to college. But when I couldn't pay for college, I was like, fine, I'm going to go to the Army, get some money, and pay for college. They knew I wanted to do some crazy, awesome shit. My grandfather was my grandfather was one of the first paratroopers in the United States Army back in World War II. And even he's like, oh, if I could drive a truck, if I could be a piece of shit for the rest of your life, just like me, working in an asbestos factory. So the bottom line is this, it's like, my grandfather was beaten down by my grandmother because everybody thought she portrayed him as the asshole. She portrayed him as the guy that was the asshole piece of shit, who was always mean to everybody in the family. But when she died and he went to like an assisted living facility, from what I've heard, because I hadn't been to the States in so long, I didn't see him really, but from what I heard, he was the kind of guy who was like, hey, he was the kind of guy who got everyone, hey, let's go ahead and play some pool, or let's go ahead and, go into whatever room and drink some juice and, talk about old times or play a game of cards, whatever. Like, he was a really alive, nice person, always trying to get everybody involved, and like the complete opposite of like, I'm just going to go ahead and take a nap, and then I'm going to go ahead and watch some TV, and then I'll go ahead and go to sleep. Like complete opposite of what he was like when his wife was around. So what I'm basically trying to say is, every time I was conditioned, every single time, that if I tried to do something exceptional or something like cool or something I wanted to do that was not in the norm, I never got love, I never got, approval, but acceptance even was taken away from me. So now years later, like, why is it that like I get really close to something, and the moment I get really close to accomplishing something, whether it's in a business or in a career, or whether it's in, whether it's with a diet or whether it's with working out or a physical goal, every time that I almost get there, like I said, why is it every time recently I fell off the wagon twice and completely destroyed all the progress I was making in this cutting that I was doing. When I got precisely to 200 pounds, it's like the needle hits 200 on the scale and immediately I fucking go on a binge. Okay? Why is it that, I was creating businesses and I was doing really well, and, and then all of a sudden people wanted to interview me and I just didn't want to, didn't work with them. Like, people were sending me emails. I wasn't answering the emails. I just wasn't answering anything. I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything. Why is it that every time I achieve something, and the thing is, there were a couple times that I did actually pretty well, and I actually did accomplish things, and I was 100% single at the time, okay? Like, there was one time when, I won, like, the European Championship in submission wrestling years and years and years ago. And, of course, when I was training for that, at the time, I had different work hours than my girlfriend, who at the time was a nurse. So she never saw me go to the gym. She never saw me eat. We basically would see each other very little, very little of the time. And I did really well. Then I would do other fights. Then I wanted to do another fight. I remember this one specific time when we were working basically the same hours and we saw each other all the time, and I specifically talked to her. I specifically was like, I want to fight again. She's like, okay, cool. I was like, well, I'm going to have to train. She's like, I'm not an idiot. I know you're going to have to train. So I'm like, all right, so I'm going to have to train. Great. So every time I wanted to train, it's like, oh, God, no, not right now. Come on, let's hang out. Let's watch TV. Let's da-da-da-da. So basically, I was looking with relationships. Every single time I was looking at relationships with, like, a girl who treated me like, my grandmother treated my grandfather, because that's, like, the parents that I knew. I was out with, like, like I would be out with her, trying to be on my diet so I could make weight, and it's like, it's like, oh, come on, just eat a little donut here, a little thing there. Come on, just eat a little piece of cake, just a little bitty piece of pie. Oh, come on, let's just eat out in a restaurant today. He was like, well, I need to go. Tomorrow you could do that, but like today, let's just eat a little. So, I remember one time it was like, I got to work out today. She's like, on Sunday, I thought you said you were going to work out on Sunday. Yeah, I was going to take Sundays off. Unfortunately, this week, I didn't work out on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Saturday. So maybe I could work out once a day this week, which I, of course, didn't do because she was cunting around then, too. So the thing is, like I said, the only times that I've really achieved success in the long haul is when I didn't have a girlfriend, okay, because I started seeking out women who would, be scared. And this particular girl, she even told me at one point, like before I broke up with her, that she had a friend of hers. Her husband started going to the gym, got a nice car, grew his hair out a little bit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and he left her. Now, I personally think that he went to the gym and his wife sat on her ass and didn't do shit all day and fucking ate ho-hos. I think that he went out in his nice new sports car. She refused to be the hot chick next to him in the passenger seat. I think that fucking he went ahead and, you know, wanted to go out, wanted to do things, and she wanted to sit home and be a piece of shit. And that's the reason why. I don't think it's because he's cheated on her because he got a new haircut. I don't think that's the reason. But the bottom line is, you know, that's the problem that she had. Every time I tried to improve like I got promoted several times in the job that I was working while I was with her. You know, and she's like, oh, you know, she didn't want me to, you know, she's like, ever since you got this job, I hope a tarantula climbs up on that office chair and bites you in the ass. And ever since you got that fucking first promotion, you know, all you've been doing is working. And it's like, no, I don't work a lot at all, actually, anyway, but whatever. You know, she was one of those people who thought money was evil. She was just holding me back, you know, and it was like, I sought out women like this my whole life that wanted to hold me down. You know, so it makes no sense. Like, I'm wondering, why am I such a fuck up? Why am I such a failure? Because I always put myself in this situation. And like my grandfather, instead of saying, bitch, I could replace you in a quarter of a second. You need to shut the fuck up or move the fuck out. I was like, okay, honey, I don't, you know, anything I can do to fuck myself to keep us from having, you know, to keep the harmony in the relationship. You know, so anyway, so fast forward to now. Now I've got a girlfriend who is, I mean, my girlfriend makes, you know, a lot of money. She, you know, has 2 master's degrees. She works out with me 10 times a week. You know, she's in awesome shape. You know, she's very, very, very confident in every way. You know, so she's not trying to hold me back, but I'm still fucking up. Why am I still fucking up? And the reason is because, like I said, like every single time, like every time that something happens with her, like if I just notice in her state, like she was saying the other day, that like if she wakes up, you know, in the morning, and she had a nightmare and she's kind of like off because she, you know, she's still like waking up and had this nightmare and she's not, you know, quite, I will know before she does that something's wrong. Like she'll be like, I don't know how you do it. Like you'll know before I do that something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my mood because I'm just so hypersensitive from growing up. Like, oh my God, if I do this tiniest thing that my grandparents don't want, then I'm not going to get any acceptance, you know? So what happens to me basically is like, you know, if I have to work on my YouTube channel or, you know, these ebooks or whatever, you know, and I come to bed a little bit later and then for some reason, maybe sometimes she is kind of pissed off that I came to bed late or whatever. But the bottom line is if I, for whatever reason, come to bed a little bit later, she's immediately like, you know, oh, well, she doesn't say anything. I just noticed that something's wrong. And then I'm like, all right, fine, then fuck it. Then I'm not going to do this anymore. And I won't fucking, you know, make videos anymore. And I'll just get myself a job fucking, you know, in an asbestos factory, which makes no sense. I should have known right then. Like, who do I know who used to work at an asbestos factory? Basically, I become my grandfather. And like I said, I do this because I've been conditioned, not because she says something, but just because I expect it. You know, like the moment that I start to make some progress, I kind of like look for, you know, the disapproval. I look for people having problems with me when I start to make a little bit of progress. You know, which is funny because now, you know, now it was like, you know, we drove back from New York. It was Sunday. We ended up getting stuck in so much traffic and everything and, you know, staying around in my hometown for a couple hours eating breakfast and stuff. So we ended up getting back. I let her sleep for like the last, like, you know, 4 or 5 hours. But we were getting back at like 4 in the morning. You know, I was driving like, you know, 40 miles an hour on I-95. It's like a 70 miles an hour zone, but it was raining so bad and dark out, you know, and the cars everywhere. So it's like, great. And, you know, and I kind of like realized, now having this knowledge, I realized, okay, well, I need to get a certain amount of food, right? So I'm going to go ahead and stop by Walmart so I'll have food for 6 o'clock, okay? You know, because one of the things is I'm supposed to eat at like 6, 9, 12. I know meal timing, whatever, it works for me. I feel better when I eat, you know, on a schedule. So I'm like, listen, if it's a Saturday, I could sleep in if I want, but I'm going to wake up at 6, have my meal, and then I'm going to go back to sleep, okay? Like, I'm never going to miss a meal again. Never, ever, 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 because I say so, right? So I need to go ahead and do this Monday morning. So Sunday night, you know, it's like, you know, I like driving. I'm like, okay, well, my girlfriend's probably going to be pissed off if I, you know, pull into Walmart, you know, at like 4 in the morning. Well, fuck it. That's her. That's on her. If she wants to get pissed off, that's fine. I'm not going to fucking sabotage my diet because my girlfriend, before I would have been like, okay, well, fine then. I just won't, you know, eat today or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm scared to, you know, to piss off my girlfriend, scared to, you know, lose the approval. And now all of a sudden it's like, I approve of myself. I love myself. you know? And it's like, I really don't care. So that's what I did. We get to Walmart. They decided they're going to be closed between midnight and 6, which is awesome. I mean, what the hell's the point to going to Walmart if it's not 24 hours a day? So drove home, went to sleep for like an hour, woke up at 6 o'clock, ate a couple cans of tuna because that's the only protein I had in the house, and then I drove to Walmart at 6 o'clock in the morning. Normally, I would have been scared to get out of bed because I was like, oh my God, what happens if I get out of bed and my girlfriend's disapproval, and oh my God, and what if I'm working too much, and who gets up at 6 in the morning to go shopping, which my girlfriend never ever said. I mean, she's a big fan of whatever it takes. If you need to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, eat a meal and go back to sleep, you do whatever it takes to be successful. But here I am, like, scared because, like I said, it's like, my grandparents, like every single time I read a book at night instead of watching TV eating potato chips, oh my God, I'm the Antichrist. So what I'm basically saying is, like, right now I'm in a situation where it's like I approve of myself. If my girlfriend has a problem with it, or anybody has a problem with it, hey, fine, whatever. That's something you got to deal with. But I'm not going to go ahead and just change my life just for approval, which is the funny thing because, like I said, my current girlfriend, has been approving of everything I've been doing, constantly. So anyway, guys, it took almost 44 years. I'm 43 now, be 44 in September. It took almost my whole life to figure out why I ran 2 great businesses and I ran them into the ground, why I was doing awesome in the Army and then, got out, screwed myself up, why I never graduated college, everything. And, why this channel, I work on it for a while. When I see results, I just stop. So the thing is, I'm going to do other videos about this, try to reverse engineer the process that I used to find out what was wrong. Okay. And of course, I'm going to be, updating my progress. You'll just see if if I continue to post videos, if I continue to get into shape, if I ever get out these low carb cutting and bulking ebooks, okay. If I do all this stuff, then you'll see that it's working, that I actually did find the solution that I was looking for. So, like I said, I appreciate everybody that watched this video until the end. And, tomorrow we'll be back to like regular programming, but I will certainly revisit, this topic more often about, how to keep your limiting beliefs or how to keep these stories that you have in your head, from basically ruining your life like they ruined mine.